One diving suit, shared. 10 minutes on the bottom, twice a day, 40 to 50 meters down. The work killed one man and left 2 more paralyzed. Yet the object that would matter most sat in a museum box for about a year, until somebody noticed teeth in the corrosion. The statues were the obvious treasure. The corroded lump would change our picture of ancient technology. Spring 1900. Greek sponge divers from Seabed shelter from a storm off Antikythera, a small island between Crete and mainland Greece. While they wait, they dive. 40 to 50 meters down is a shipwreck covered in bronze and marble. By November, Greek officials know, and Navy ships are on their way. The recovery runs about a year, into 1901, supervised by the Greek Archaeological Service. The museum that holds the finds calls it the first major underwater archaeological expedition. The crew shares one suit, lead boots, brass helmet, air pumped down a hose. 10 minutes at a time, twice a day. In 1901, Georgios Kritikos dies of decompression sickness. 2 others are paralyzed. By September, only a handful remain fit to dive. This was archaeology conducted with the technology and the safety standards of the sponge trade. They raise dozens of marble statues, a life-sized bronze athlete, jewelry, glass, fittings, and human remains from the people who sank with the ship. This was a merchant freighter, probably bound for Italy. Pottery and 36 silver coins place the wreck around 60 BC, give or take a decade. That dates the sinking, not the machine. The cargo itself spans centuries, so going down with the ship does not tell us when each object was made. Among the cargo is one corroded green lump. In May 1902, at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, someone looks closely and sees gear teeth. It had sat there for about a year, not 2. The museum's director spends the next 3 years studying the wreck finds and publishes in 1905. What looked like debris is now recognized as a deliberate machine, though nobody yet understands the whole system. What is a bronze gear machine doing inside a 1st century BC wreck? Start with the constraint behind every answer. It survives in 82 pieces, 7 large, 75 small. 30 gears remain, 27 are locked inside one fragment. Together, they represent roughly 1/3 of the original. The other 2/3 are gone. Every modern image of a complete front face must therefore fill empty space with inference. It is also less metal than the photographs suggest. Corrosion now preserves the shape of the teeth, almost like a fossil. Wood from its case survives in 3 fragments. It was turned by hand, but only the slot for the input survives. Every crank you see in a reconstruction is a guess. Across the fragments are tiny Greek letters, roughly 1.5 millimeters tall. Researchers estimate that only about 1/5 of the original text has been recovered. In 2005, researchers brought an industrial X-ray scanner to Athens because the object could not travel. It used 450 kilovolts to see through the corroded bronze. They made 6 scans of the largest fragment and used surface imaging to recover faint inscriptions. Only about a dozen gears are visible by eye. X-rays revealed the rest, and the readable text roughly doubled. The breakthrough was not finding a second machine. It was learning to read deeper inside the first one. Better evidence quickly changed old conclusions. For decades, one small back dial was interpreted as a 76-year astronomical cycle. In 2008, the scans showed a 4-year cycle instead, a dial for the Games, including the Olympics. A confident reading had met better evidence and changed. It would not be the last time. The mechanism is not a solved puzzle getting clearer in a straight line. Better tools repeatedly change the picture. The back carried two spiral dials. The upper tracked a 19-year calendar, 235 lunar months across 5 turns, reconciling lunar months with the solar year. The lower covered 223 months, with glyphs marking when an eclipse could happen. Not that one certainly would. A smaller dial corrected the expected time as the cycle repeated. This was not prophecy. It was a compact physical model of repeating astronomical patterns. The front modeled a Greek cosmos. A zodiac ring surrounded a movable calendar ring marked in days. Star calendar plates indicated when stars rose and set. The surviving inscriptions describe a display for the sun, moon, and 5 planets known in antiquity, all circling Earth, because this model was geocentric. A pin riding in an off-center slot made the moon's pointer speed up and slow down, mechanically imitating its uneven motion across the sky. Turn the input, and a mathematical theory becomes visible as motion. The knowledge inside it was not created in isolation. Its eclipse cycle came from Babylonian arithmetic refined over centuries, then mechanized in Greek bronze. Cover inscriptions list cycle numbers for planets: 462 for Venus, 442 for Saturn, and describe a cosmos of rings and small spheres. The text tells us a planetary display existed. The gears that drove it are missing. That distinction, text survives, mechanism does not, is why scholars can agree that planets were displayed while disagreeing over how. You have probably heard it called the world's first computer. That label came from a historian in the 1950s as an analogy. It is not programmable and cannot solve a new problem. It performs a fixed set of astronomical calculations. A better description is an analog astronomical calculator. Turn the input and the sky moves. The careful scholarly claim is that it is more complex than any known device for at least a millennium afterward. Known is the important word. Bronze was valuable and endlessly recyclable, so the archaeological record is not a complete catalog of what ancient engineers could build. We also do not know who built it. The 12-month names are Corinthian, pointing toward northwest Greece or Syracuse in Sicily. That regional clue is the entire basis for attaching Archimedes to the machine. It does not identify a workshop or maker. Another major study argues for Rhodes, while the museum frames its origins differently. Even the construction date remains disputed. And 205 BC? That is the starting point used for eclipse calculations, not the year it was built. Depending on which evidence carries the most weight, published dates span much of the 2nd century BC toward the wreck's final decades. The leading 2021 reconstruction of the front needs 69 gears. Only 30 survive. Every gear placed in front of the main drive wheel is proposed, not found. Importantly, the researchers say so. They mark elements with no direct evidence and explicitly refuse to call their model a replica. There is no single settled reconstruction. Even surviving pieces, a small isolated gear and an unused spoke, still lack agreed functions. Uncertainty is not evidence that the research failed. It is what responsible reconstruction looks like when 2/3 of the object are absent. The argument is still changing. In 2018, researchers reprocessed the 2005 scans and recovered more text. Recent preprints have challenged the calendar ring count and simulated whether the mechanism could run reliably, while acknowledging uncertainty in their own inputs. Meanwhile, nobody dived the wreck between 1976 and 2012. Today, excavation is active again. The wreck and the old scan files are both still producing evidence more than a century after discovery. The reason we still argue is not that the ancient world is unknowable. In 1900, a crew working 10 minutes at a time recovered the wreck without recording where each object came from. That context was never written down. What remains is 1/3 of a machine. 82 corroded pieces that modeled the sky. It is unique among what survives, not proof that nobody else could build one. Bronze is reusable. This machine became history because it sank. The sea destroyed most of it, but the same accident protected enough for us to ask the right questions. If you want more episodes that preserve the argument instead of hiding it, subscribe.